Hey guys, it's me, Mr. 250, and welcome back to Danganronpa 2, or to trigger happy havoc if Danganronpa, the button of hope and the tragic warriors of despair. If I sound slightly different, it's because I am. Good job noticing. I've got a different microphone now for recording console stuff. Since I'm sitting a lot farther away from the computer, I needed another one. So I am using a different microphone. So, what were we doing last? Is there like a... That's not what I'm trying to do. Okay, we can go back. That is... Wow, 112 pages so far. Oh, yeah, that's right. Makoto got himself killed. And now the story appears to fall on Mukuro Ikusaba. Time had certainly stopped for Mukuro Ikusaba. It was as if everything around her had frozen perfectly still. In the past, she was known as the ultimate soldier. She had experienced this feeling before, during her time with the mercenary group Fenrir. In situations where she was surrounded by a hopeless number of enemies within the jungle, or in a desert ruin. The charging enemies seemed as though they were frozen in time, which allowed her to claim a decisive victory in all her battles. But this wasn't a battlefield. So why did this familiar sensation activate once again? In order to understand what had happened, Mukuro slowly tried to assess the current situation from within this frozen world. Junko and Mukuro are both children of despair. But Junko Enoshima, the true ultimate despair, harbors a far deeper darkness within her. Though their last names are different, Mukuro is Junko's older sister, connected by the bonds of blood. She cooperated with Junko's hopeless plan, and impersonated her under the pretense of participating in the killing game alongside her classmates. According to the plan, Mukuro was supposed to oppose Monokuma, who her sister was controlling, and be locked in a dungeon as punishment. Isolated from the others, she would then escape the dungeon and perform various acts intended to deprive the students of hope. That was the role she had been assigned. When Makoto succumbed to his headache, Junko ordered her to see if the shock had caused him to remember anything that could make him a liability. He woke up as she was tending to him, so she made small talk with him, but she didn't notice any change in his behavior. Until this point, she was certain that there shouldn't be any problems. Nothing could possibly go wrong. She stomped on Monokuma like her sister ordered her to do, and flawlessly spoke the lines she was taught to memorize. Afterwards, she would fall through a trap door into the dungeon, and remain isolated from the other students. That was her role. She hadn't done anything wrong. There were no problems. There were no problems. She repeated that to herself over and over like a silent prayer. But in that frozen moment in time, what she saw was not a trap door, but countless spears. One of them had skewered Makoto through his side. Why? Makoto? Why are there spears? Gunganir? I would have died if I hadn't moved. Did Junko mess up the plan? No, Junko would never mess up. Was she trying to kill me? Me? Makoto saved me. Why? Why did he say my name? Did his memories come back? Did I not realize that? Did I make a mistake? Is that why Junko got angry? Is this a punishment? Is it my fault? Junko tried to kill me. Kill me. Kill me. Kill me. Slowly, time came back to her world. Mukuro could feel her face turning pale as she slowly looked towards Makoto. The student screams rang throughout the gym. Sayaka was probably the first one to scream. Darn it, I didn't get to murder first. But who screamed first didn't matter to Mukuro. Makoto. Why? Makoto was the ultimate lucky student. He had been her classmate for the past 2 years, and now he was a sacrifice to despair. Not long ago, he had given her an answer of sorts during their conversation in the nurse's office. He was just a pawn in the plan her sister had devised. But now, a feeling of doubt began forming in Mukuro's mind. What did I want from Makoto? As her heart churned relentlessly, she continued to think. In return, I promise that if I do decide to kill someone, it won't be you. Was I impersonating Junko then? Or did I really mean that? When did I start feeling this doubt? Just now? The moment he saved me? Or when we spoke in the nurse's office earlier? Or when I first confronted him about this killing game before his memories returned? Or was it before even that? Mukuro stood there, confused and overwhelmed, as Makoto slowly opened his eyes, the spear still impaling him through the side. Mukuro? Makoto, are you okay? Mukuro is no longer impersonating the ultimate fashionista. Looking up from the floor of the gym, Makoto asked, "Why are you dressed up like Junko?" He was smiling. Maybe he couldn't feel the pain anymore. Or maybe he was being affected by something else. But regardless, Makoto ignored the fact that he was dying, just to give Mukuro his warm smile. "I'm glad. You're safe, Mukuro." As soon as he heard Makoto's weak, fading voice, something inside Mukuro snapped. From within the shell of despair she had built up, an intense emotion began flowing out. No, this is all wrong. She couldn't hold back that emotion any longer. No! And for the first time in her entire life, Mukuro unleashed a scream into the world. Give me just a moment. Sorry, we're going to be using this episode for a little bit of audio testing with the new mic as well, so might be moving it around a bit. As Mukuro fell to her knees and clutched her head, a small shadow started walking towards her back. The stuffed animal that had been under her foot. Monokuma. His claws were extended, and he was no longer walking with his usual waddle. Instead, he moved like a beast silently stalking its prey as he slowly advanced within his target's blind spot. As he inched closer to Mukuro, Monokuma raised his razor-sharp claws, crouched on his haunches, and suddenly leapt towards the back of her neck. However, just before those claws could reach the paralyzed Mukuro, a dark shadow moved in from the side and swatted those claws away with one blow. The lunge deflected. Monokuma was sent flying throughout the air, spinning wildly before crashing into the wall. Dang it, what are you trying to do? Sakura Ogami, the ultimate martial artist, had just prevented another tragedy. She stood before Monokuma and addressed him in a loud, booming voice. Not only did you attempt to kill Junko for violating school regulations, you even attacked Makoto who had nothing to do with this. If you plan to continue acting in such a savage manner, there's no reason for us to play along with your game. Togami, the ultimate affluent progeny, smirked condescendingly at Sakura. Fool. One could say you've now violated school regulations with your senseless actions. He looked as if he honestly didn't care if his fellow students lived or died at all. Well, she merely deflected the headmaster's attack just now, so I do not think it truly counts as an act of violence. Like Togami, Celeste seemed unfazed as she chided him over his words. However, the banter between the two was enough to stir the stunned students to action. Makoto! Sayaka was the first to run towards Makoto, who lay bleeding from his stomach. But Monokuma stopped her, shouting in a tone of voice that seemed completely out of character. Be careful! Don't get too close to those two! Huh? Startled by Monokuma's desperate tone, Sayaka and the others stopped moving almost instinctively. The students looked around at each other. Instead of his usual playful gait, Monokuma walked towards them with deliberate, methodical steps. And then, he suddenly blurted out something that took everyone, including Mukuro Ikusaba, by surprise. I'm sure you're probably confused by this sudden turn of events, but I want you guys to work together. As Mukuro slowly turned her head towards Monokuma, he pointed at her and yelled, Mukuro Ikusaba and her accomplice Makoto Naege are the terrorists responsible for locking you all inside the academy. Once again, time stopped for Mukuro. But this time, she wasn't the only one affected. Everyone seemed to be frozen in shock. After a few seconds of silence, Oi Asahina, the ultimate swimming pro, spoke first. Huh? You're kidding, right? I mean, Makoto is a terrorist? That's impossible. And who's Mukuro anyway? I mean, that's Junko. Monokuma began slowly explaining to Oi. The real Junko must be in prison somewhere in the school. Worst case scenario, she might be killed. Mukuro must have researched which one of you would be easiest for her to impersonate, and hid among you all pretending to be her. She was probably trying to make sure this killing game went smoothly. Suddenly, Monokuma's hands and feet began jerking in awkward motion as he looked at the other students and introduced himself. What? I'm Bashiki Madari, the ultimate hacker. I'm your upperclassman. I hacked into the academy from the outside, and I was finally able to take control of Monokuma's body just a little while ago. Take control? From who? From the head of the terrorist organization that's controlling this robot from the outside. What? What are you saying, Junko? Mukuro trembled as she heard the words coming out of Monokuma's mouth. For a brief moment, she clung to the hope that her sister wasn't trying to kill her. But as soon as that hope was born, it was immediately consumed by despair. Junko had the power to transform hope into despair. She would never let anyone hack her that easy. There was only one explanation. Junko Inoshima was pretending to be someone named Bashiki in order to frame Mukuro and Makoto. It was as though Junko was using Mukuro's survival as a branching path to lead the students to a different despair. Monokuma continued talking, telling the students more lies designed to prod them to action. On your first day at Hope Speak Academy, you guys were exposed to sleeping gas, knocked unconscious and taken hostage. Mukuro and Makoto are probably the only operatives that the terrorists sent inside the school. That means they probably know how to escape from here. And then Monokuma turned to face Mukuro. Mukuro Ikusaba was a member of a mercenary group called Fenrir. She's a wanted criminal who's killed over 10 people associated with the school. So don't get soft and think you can capture her alive. In fact, that's exactly what the cops told me. So the moment I saw an opening, I tried hacking the trap they set and tried to kill her. But what about Makoto? Monokuma gave a cold, emotionless answer to Sayaka's question. My guess is that a measly little ultimate lucky student didn't stand a chance of defying a group like Fenrir. He probably was threatened and forced to cooperate before you entered the school. Or, judging from his earlier actions, maybe Mukuro seduced him. Sayaka's face went pale when she heard that answer. and she immediately stopped talking. Mukuro raised her head and shouted, "You're wrong! Makoto isn't a terrorist! You all have to believe me!" The whole gym fell silent. And then, as if he was speaking for everyone there, Taka stepped forward and nervously asked, Hold on. What do you mean Makoto isn't a terrorist?" "It sounds like you're saying that there's no doubt that you, in fact, are a terrorist." How do you... I was gonna ask how that happened, but then again I remembered that Taka's an idiot. "I ask that you correct yourself at once and say we are not the terrorists." Celeste began expressing her own doubts as well. "It is strange. Does it not seem odd that she is so protective of someone we all just met a few days ago?" Mukuro stood in silence. The other students' faces began to fill with suspicion and doubt as they realized that they weren't looking at the real Junko Enoshima. Togami pushed up his glasses and began coldly pointing out what seemed out of place to him. "I heard that fool Makoto, or whatever his name is, called you Mukuro instead of Junko. How would Makoto know that your name is really Mukuro if he met you not that long ago?" "I've also heard of Fenrir," continued Togami. "As I recall, its members have a tattoo somewhere on their body." Instinctively, Togami's words put Mukuro into a calm state of mind. In hostile situations, her defensive reflexes as the ultimate soldier often manifested themselves. Mukuro's tattoo was on the back of her right hand. She wondered how she could hide this from the other students without also calling attention to it. But in the end, this concern was in vain. If the police records are true, she should have a tattoo on the back of her right hand. As Monokuma freely divulged that information. "All right," cried Taka, his voice filled with enthusiasm. "Show us the back of your right hand and prove your innocence." Monokuma dispensed another unnecessary remark. "Make sure you look real close. She might have covered it up with foundation." Junko had ordered Mukuro to hide her tattoo with foundation, so Monokuma's information was entirely true. There was nothing Mukuro could do except stay quiet. However, she wasn't staying quiet because her identity was about to be exposed. She was struck by the realization that her sister was completely serious about pinning this on her. "Why the hesitation?" shouted the foolishly honest Taka. "As my classmate, I have complete faith in you." From behind him, Hifumi Yamada, the ultimate fanfic creator, I totally forgot about Hifumi, murmured to himself as cold sweat ran down his cheeks. "Well, look at that. I guess this is what they call a checkmate, huh? Why don't you just fess up already?" In contrast to Hifumi, Mondo Owada, the ultimate biker gang leader, was royally mad. However, there were some students who were busy questioning Monokuma instead of Mukuro. "Hey, you're not coming to save us?" shouted Leon Kuwata, the ultimate baseball star. "You should hurry up and charge in here already." Monokuma looked at Leon and shook his head softly. "The police can't help you right now. Not only are you guys hostages, it's possible that the entire school has been rigged with explosives and poisonous gas. I hacked into this Monokuma robot to investigate that for myself." "Then what about everyone on that DVD? What about everyone outside the school?" The memory of the DVD she was forced to watch yesterday still weighed heavily on her mind, but Monokuma didn't have a clear answer. "I don't know anything about any DVDs, but there are definitely terrorists causing havoc out there. Law enforcement around the world is in shambles trying to deal with this." "That's impossible." Sayaka shuddered and collapsed to her knees. "Sayaka, Next to her, Chihiro Fujisaki, the ultimate programmer, was unsure about what she should do. Behind her, two other girls stood silently. The first was Toko... Oh, wow, I totally forgot how to say this. Fukawa? Yeah, the ultimate writing prodigy. She seemed to be trying very hard not to look at Makoto as he lay bleeding. The other was a quiet girl who hadn't talked about herself much, named Kyoko Kirigiri. Unlike Toko, Kyoko was watching everything intently, as if she were studying the scene of a crime. From Makoto's breathing patterns to subtle changes in Mukuro's facial expression, nothing was escaping her attention. Suddenly, Toko began nervously talking to Sakura. So, anyway, let's just say that Mukuro woman or whatever over there is a terrorist. Hurry up and beat her to death or something. We don't know that yet, said Sakura. My fists do not met out justice based on simple speculation. Sakura tried to get near Makoto to examine his wounds, but Monokuma stood in her way, shouting, "Don't come any closer!" This meant that Mukuro was the only one who could get close to Makoto. She had endless countless lives in the battlefield. She knew from experience. If she didn't treat Makoto's wounds, he would die. His wounds were not immediately fatal, but if he continued losing blood, he would eventually slip into shock and die shortly thereafter. Please, you need to treat Makoto first. Absolutely not, said Togami, harshly interrupting Mukuro. Tying you up and examining the back of your right hand is our first priority. Hey, Makoto's in danger. Now's not the time for that, said Aoi as she cast a worried glance at Makoto. She was still having trouble understanding the situation, and hadn't decided if Makoto was suspicious or not. Togami was about to snap back at her, but Mukuro's action stunned him into silence. She took a deep breath, and then Mukuro removed the blonde wig from her head. Where there were two long blonde pigtails only a moment before, there was now short black hair. She cleared her face of all emotion, and when she spoke, her voice rang throughout the gym. I'm not Junko Inushima. My name is Mukuro Ikusaba. The student stared wide-eyed at her open confession. All she did was remove her wig and clear her emotions. But in doing so, the person the students had recognized as Junko Inushima vanished from their sight. The terrorist that had taken her place continued to speak in a calm, stoic tone. I helped lock everyone inside this academy. The confession on a seaside cliff moment has finally arrived, Hifumi blurted out. What? Wigs are against school regulations, Junko. I mean, Mukuro, shouted Taka. As if stirred by their cries of excitement, the other students began clamoring among themselves. Huh? Said Yasuhiro. So Makoto's wounds are, like, real? Does that mean the stuff about terrorists and whatever is all real too? So everything that's happened these past few days wasn't a bunch of staged events. As the reality of the situation began dawning on Yatsuhiro, all Leon could say to him was, "Shut up." Togami just remained calm, and addressed Mukuro in a condescending manner. What does your group want? If you were after money, you would have already tried to negotiate with me. Of course I'd rather let them die than surrender to your ransom demands. Our purpose is to fill the world with despair. Togami scoffed at this notion, and began to speak once again. I see. Monokuma said something similar. So that ideology is what fuels your terrorism. It's true. If you did anything to me, you would certainly fill the world with despair. But obviously that would be impossible for you. Oi couldn't believe what Togami was saying, and she frowned as she muttered, "How self-centered can you be?" After confirming that Togami had no more questions for her, Mukuro looked at Makoto, whose breathing had slowed, and let her voice showed some emotion. "But Makoto has nothing to do with this. You can't believe what Monokuma says." "What did you say?" shouted Mondo. "I don't know what you're talking about. You're a terrorist, just like Monokuma said." Mukuro looked away from Mondo and continued speaking. "That's true, but Makoto isn't involved at all." Celeste coldly brushed her objection aside. "I do not think trying to protect him will do you any good. After all, we heard Makoto call you by your real name." She had no words. There was nothing she could say to protect Makoto, even though Makoto was truly innocent. Though Mukuro was the ultimate soldier, her powers were largely limited to battle. Even a normal high school student could outwit her when it comes to debate and negotiation. If she were the ultimate negotiator, she might be able to convince them that their memories had really been erased. But in her current situation, if she tried to bring up their memory loss, they would think it as a desperate excuse. Even Mukuro knew that. But even if she didn't know what to say, she still knew what to do. Right now, we need to treat Makoto first. And then she started walking towards Makoto as if nothing had happened. To the others, it seemed like Mukuro had decided to abruptly change the subject. "Hold it. We will immediately take Makoto to the nurse's office for treatment. However, we must tie you up." That was Sakura's honest demand. But there was no way Mukuro could accept it. If she was separated from Makoto, there'd be no telling what Monokuma would do to him. And between Mondo's hot temper and Togami's cold heart, Makoto could easily sustain further injuries under the pretense of interrogation. Furthermore, among these students, Mukuro knew she was the only one who had experienced treating wounds due to her time with Fenrir. After mulling that over, she narrowed her eyes and went silent. Her mind was made up. She was determined to fight her way out of here and escape with Makoto. "I apologize, but I need you to fall asleep right now." As she said that, Sakura instantly positioned herself behind Mukuro. She was completely within her blind spot. To a normal person, it would have seemed like Sakura had suddenly vanished. After moving faster than any human being could see, Sakura's equally fast hands launched a blow towards the back of Mukuro's neck. However, "Sorry, Sakura, but I need to get out of here." Mukuro parried Sakura's fist with a spinning roundhouse kick. Sakura raised an eyebrow at the unexpected counterattack. Mukuro tried to use the momentum of her feet to sweep Sakura's feet out from under her. However, Sakura dodged and instinctively struck back against Mukuro's pivot leg. But Mukuro was faster and jumped up, aiming a tornado kick at Sakura's chin. Sakura deflected the attack with one arm. Then both combatants leapt backwards, glared, and charged simultaneously. Every blow they dealt was parried and countered by the other. And though they were both unarmed, the sound of their battle echoed throughout the gym. It was like a typhoon had been compressed to the size of a car and set loose inside the gym. The other students were powerless to stop them. All they could do was stare at the breathtaking dance of death unfolding before them. After 10 minutes had passed, the enormous sound of one final impact rang throughout the gym. The two warriors leapt back once again and breathed heavily as they stared each other down. My mistake. Though it's only been a few days, I cannot believe I did not notice such an impressive fighter was hiding among us. In addition to the surprise Sakura felt, it was as if the battle had left her energized. Mukuro, on the other hand, looked down at her arm confirmed it had been wounded during the battle, and thought to herself, she's strong. I don't even think Sakura is even taking this seriously right now. Despite being constantly surrounded by firearms, blades, traps, and explosives during her time with Fenrir, this was the first time she'd ever been wounded. Mukuro was powerless before the might of the woman known as the ultimate martial artist, and the strongest woman in the world. Just as I thought, I can't beat Sakura with my bare hands alone. If she had been directly ordered to kill Sakura, Mukuro would have opted to either snipe her from a distance or poison her. At this close range, she would need an assault rifle just to stand a fighting chance. I don't have time for this. She looked at Makoto and confirmed that his breathing had grown even shallower. I need to hurry. But at that moment, she had no one to turn to for help. Suddenly, Mukuro had an idea. It was true that gaining an ally in this situation was impossible. However, she could still turn one person into her enemy's enemy. Mukuro took a deep breath before she charged at Sakura. Then, she immediately fainted and charged at a different girl. Toko, who had been cowering in fear from the battle between Sakura and Mukuro in the corner of the gym. This is bad. Sakura was caught off guard and tried to run after her, but Mukuro was one step ahead and reached Toko first. Why me? I'm sorry. Wait, hold on. Mukuro jabbed Toko in her solar plexus, and she fell into her arms. Taka and Aoi yelled out in shock. This is bad. She plans to use Toko as a hostage. Well, I don't care. Toko, in contrast to their shocked faces, Togami just snickered and coldly remarked, "You fool. Do you really think we care if you take someone we just met a few days ago as your hostage?" Mukuro just softly glanced at Togami and replied, "You didn't meet her a few days ago." "What did you say?" "You met her 2 years ago." Togami scowled. Mukuro ignored him and held her bloody arm in front of Toko's face. And then she yelled into her ears, "Wake up, Genocide Jack!" It seemed so random and out of place. Why would Mukuro mention the name of a notorious serial killer right now? The students looked at each other with confusion, when suddenly, Toko, who had been groaning in pain, suddenly kicked up off the floor of the gym with renewed vigor. She leapt into the air much higher than any normal human should have been able to. While hovering several meters in midair, Toko twirled faster than a professional figure skater. This caused her skirt to flutter, revealing multiple pairs of sparkling scissors. Countless tally marks were scratched into her legs, like a kill count carved into a fighter jet. If not for this situation, Toko's glamorous jumps and spins would have been a sight to behold. The girl formerly known as Toko Fukuwa cackled wildly, her red eyes sparkling as her absurdly long tongue flopped out of her mouth. "You called for me, and so I appear. I've got a murder IOU for YOU. I don't know if I can do that laugh right now. Toko? The situation had changed so drastically that even Sayaka, who was silent up until now, spoke up. Hey, you flash in the pan! Don't treat Genocide Jack like that depressing little Four Eyes. That dirty girl doesn't bathe herself at all, so I gotta put in 5 times the effort to rub myself down in the shower. Toko's sudden change in personality sent the students clamoring amongst themselves. Hey, Leon yelled. What the heck does that mean? Monokuma just shook his head. There are some things that even I don't understand. The students continued to panic at the strange turn of events. Toko, now calling herself Genocide Jack, took out a set of scissors from under her skirt and snipped them with glee as she looked around the gym. Huh? Man, it's been a while since I got to stretch my legs. So what were you guys gonna do here at the gym while I was snoozing away? Have an orgy? I understand. I totally understand. You guys need me to cut up your clothes so you can feel even naughtier. Yeah, right. Why the heck would I do that for you, idiots? My scissors are only meant for cutting the supple, tender flesh of adorable boys. Genocide Jack was causing a ruckus. But when she saw Makoto lying on the floor, she tilted her head once again. Huh? Big Mac, you're like totally about to die. What's the deal? Did the world fill you with so much despair that you all came here to commit mass suicide? That's so hot. But why are you starting without me? Toko, cried Aoi, get a hold of yourself. Genocide Jack ignored Aoi and let her emotions run unchecked, jumping and dancing with excitement as she held her scissors. Ah, jeez. I wanted to stab Big Mac's side myself. This spot right here where the ribs are kind of showing already. He's not even screaming right now, though. What does that mean? Oh well. Maybe I can just get used to this feeling of alienation instead. I have no idea what's going on anymore, shouted Yatsuhiro. This is all the aliens' fault. Yatsuhiro buried his head into his arms, but no one was paying attention to him. The students' attention was entirely focused on Genocide Jack. Using that to her advantage, Mukuro began sneaking over to Makoto. As she cautiously picked him up, she confirmed that his body temperature was starting to decrease. I can still make it there in time. Though she was carrying another person, Mukuro managed to soften the sound of her footsteps as she ran for the gym doors. By the time the students heard Mukuro open the door, it was already too late. She had managed to escape the gym with Makoto. However, not everyone was unaware of what Mukuro was doing. Monokuma saw her movements out of the corner of his eye, but he chose not to tell the students. And one other person, Kyoko Kirigiri. She saw Mukuro carry Makoto away, but did not inform the others as she watched them leave in silence. As everyone wrestled with their own personal thoughts and speculations, Hope's Peak Academy began walking a path towards a completely different chaos. Let's see, where are we at? I can't actually see the timer from here on my recording. I think I'm at like 40 minutes or something. I was hoping to get at least an hour and a half done tonight, but I am out of water, so I'll be right back in just a moment. I gotta make another cut so I can go grab some.